Hey friends, Socially Adept Worm here, bringing you a blast from the past with a conversation about Destiny 1, sort of, and something that I would love to see brought from Destiny 1 back to Destiny 2, and I think a lot, and I do mean a lot of players would have to get behind me on this, or I should say would choose to get behind me on this. But yeah, let's talk about it. So I don't know what percentage of viewers played Destiny 1, but I'm going to assume probably a good portion of you did, because I make videos that the casual player, I would say, probably doesn't care as much about versus all you lovely hardcore players like myself. So a lot of you probably did play Destiny 1, and you remember there were a lot of really cool things in Destiny 1 that we don't have in Destiny 2. And a lot of cool, I guess you could say, currencies that existed back then that don't exist now. And the one that we're specifically going to be talking about today is glass needles. Now, for a brief explanation of glass needles, basically, in Destiny 1, glass needles were an exotic consumable that you could get from, I believe it was Xur, and Xur was the only way to get them. And they cost a pretty penny as well. But basically what glass needles would do is whenever you had an armor, an exotic piece of armor that you really liked, you know, like say you got a, I don't know, armamentarium, for example. You got an armamentarium and you really like the armamentarium, but it had a really bad roll. It had like high mobility and high strength, for example. You could actually go into the menu on that exotic and you could go to I think it was at the very end of like the perk selection, and there was an option to basically re-roll the stats on that weapon, or I'm sorry, on that armor piece. And then once you did that, it would cost those glass needles, that exotic currency, and it would just basically totally change up all of your stats. It would, you know, bring your stats from, you know, that high mobility, high strength to high resilience, high discipline, or high recovery, high intellect, something like that. And of course, it was random. You could get, you know, go from high strength, high mobility to, again, another high strength, high mobility roll. But it was great to be able to re-roll the, you know, that exotic armor. And I know it's wishful thinking. I know that somebody's going to go in the comments and say Bungie will never do this. You're probably right. Okay, so let me just say that right now. But I would love to see this back, because quite frankly, I know I'm not the only one that hates grinding out exotic armor pieces that just suck. You know, it sucks to get in to, you know, something like a, you know, a legendary lost sector or master lost sector and grind it over and over and over again in the hopes that you get one of 20 or 30 pieces, or maybe even more. I don't know how many exotics there are for each class, but with the hopes that you get a decent rolled piece of armor for something that you specifically want. You know, if I'm playing, you know, for example, on my hunter here, you know, and I really want the newest exotic, the Certarachnes, whatever it is, the Certarachnes one, the grapple one, and I don't like the roll that I got at the end of the campaign, the legendary campaign. I have to go into a legend lost sector, and I have to sit there and I have to grind again and again and again and again to get more exotics. And there's like a 1 in 20, 30, however many exotics there are, chance that it's not even the Certarachnes, whatever, I can't remember the name, sorry, that it's not the Certarachnes. That sucks. But then on top of that, there is a chance that I get a Certarachnes and it's got a terrible roll. You know, it's you know, something like high intellect and high recovery, you know, and as a hunter, like I prefer using mobility and discipline. Then the grind starts all over. Okay, well, I got one, but it was a terrible roll, so now I'm going to dismantle it or infuse it if it's higher level, whatever, and go back in and try to get another one, you know. And so I feel like what ends up happening is you get players that are in there for potentially hours on end trying for a perfect roll or a serviceable roll on a piece of armor that's they're looking for. Okay, and maybe you get lucky. Sure, maybe you get lucky and you get, you know, that piece of armor with great stat distribution your first try. You know, maybe you put on one of the ghost mods as a titan for higher resilience, so you get good resilience, but it doesn't give you the discipline or strength, something like you want. You know, it's just, okay, it's really grindy. And I know there are other ways to obtain exotics. You know, you can do the the seasonal mission, nightfalls. Of course, you can grind nightfalls for exotics, but it's kind of the same principle that it takes a long time to grind out so many exotics, you know, and doing Nightfalls, arguably, even if you're doing Grandmasters, which is basically a guaranteed exotic reward, Grandmasters, especially with the difficulty level of Destiny 2 currently, are take 30 minutes to complete. You know, I think even the best teams right now are looking at 15 to 20 minute runs, you know? So yeah, you get that guaranteed exotic possibility, but it takes 15, 20 minutes to get there. And that's the incredibly great, like top tier players, like people like, you know, the common folk, you know, the people that love this game but don't have, you know, hours and hours and hours to sink in and get, you know, to a level of skill that's unprecedented, you know, in common play. We take, you know, 30 minutes on a Grandmaster Nightfall, and 30 minutes later you finish it, you get, you know, Blight Ranger, you know, with high, you know, with moderate stats all across the board, you know, and that's a feels bad moment. Now, Glass Needles, okay, we were talking about this earlier, we're going to come back to it. Glass Needles would help to alleviate the quite frankly the I hate saying it, but the piss poor grind that is associated with exotic hunting, you know, exotic stat hunting. Okay. And I think that's, you know, obviously the reason why they don't exist currently is because Bungie wants us to play the game. You know, they say, hey, you need to, you know, we want you to play more, not freely just change your stats. But I think that they could do it there's a right way for them to do it and a wrong way for them to do it. Obviously, the thing that's never going to happen, they're never going to bring it back like it was in D1, where you could literally infinitely just go through and, okay, reroll. As long as you have Glass Needles, you just continuously reroll them. I don't think we'd see that. I think a good way to reintroduce Glass Needles, and these are a couple ideas. Okay. Number one, Glass Needles now drop as basically a common, or not common, but like as commonly as exotics do. Right? So anytime you have a chance to get an exotic, it is now replaced by Glass Needles. You can hold up to 10 at a time, or maybe make it 5 at a time, you know, but once you get your Glass Needles that you want, you can go to whatever piece of armor, the Armentarium, the Surturacnes, the Doomfang Pauldron, you know, the Verity's Brow, whatever piece of armor you currently have, you can go into the menu and you can re-roll its stats with those Glass Needles. And of course, the Glass Needles plus Glimmer, legendary shards, you know, like I think that it shouldn't necessarily be cheap to the point where you can spam your stat redistribution over and over and over again. But to a degree where it's like, okay, like I've saved up my Glass Needles, like I'm going to try, you know, 5 different times here to get, you know, that roll on my Armamentarium, that high resilience, high discipline roll that I want so bad because I want the double grenades, blah, 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 whatever reasoning you have. And I think this would be, I would say this is probably the best way to rework it. And then of course, Glass Needles would drop more commonly from, you know, your various activities, you know, Grandmaster, you know, it has a chance to drop 2 or 3 of them or something like that. But this would, in my opinion, help the hardcore player base a lot more. It would help everybody, but I think it would specifically be targeted at the hardcore player base because we play enough Destiny as it is. We don't play Destiny because we're continuously looking for god rolls. Okay, like as somebody who has basically all the god rolls that he could want right now. Okay, I'm not just constantly hunting god rolls. Hell, they introduced weapon crafting, so they know that players don't care. Hardcore players, I should say, don't care so much about hunting that perfect roll. If they have so many, why not allow us to skip part of the process? You know, I'm not saying fully customize our stats. You know, I'm not saying crafted armor that, okay, like I want at least, you know, 10, 15, 20 resilience and at least 20 strength, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. But at least give us the ability, instead of just getting some random piece of potentially trash exotic armor, give us the ability to just re-roll whatever armor piece we choose. You know, that would take away some of the grind for hardcore players, because again, hardcore players, we don't play just to do the grind, so to speak. And yes, I'm not saying we as hardcore players we don't enjoy the grind. Like I do enjoy the grind. You know, I like the chance of, oh, okay, what did I get on? Ooh, this looks like a pretty good roll. I want to test it out, or you know, something like that. Like I enjoy that, but I don't play Destiny with the mindset of like, oh, I have to get like the perfect best roll on this, and this, because I have them all on the guns that I use already. You know, the crate that you see here in the background, I've got the roll that I like. I don't need a better roll on the crate. You know, I've got my crafted Rufus Fury, which is probably one of my favorite guns in the game right now. And it's crafted, like I can pick and choose the perks I want to perfection. You know, Bungie, give us the opportunity to just focus our exotic armors, to redistribute the stats so that we don't have to grind so much. Okay, reducing, because here's the thing, reducing the grind for the hardcore players, I think, is what's best. And that's something that I feel like a lot of hardcore players would potentially agree with. Okay, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe as hardcore players, you say, no, I like the grind. I like to, you know, struggle to get the exotic roll that I want, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think that most hardcore players would agree that it should be easier if you're playing 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day to get certain things that you want easier. Okay, and no, this is not a video saying make Destiny 2 easier. Obviously it's not, but there, like I said, there are certain things that should be easier. The ability to focus exotic armor through the use of glass needles. I have it pulled up on screen over here because I need to know about it, but the use of glass needles would be fantastic. And I stand by that. I would love to see them come back. Reducing the grind would be beneficial to hardcore players. And see, the thing is, like, you know, obviously brand new players that don't even have all the exotics wouldn't even get glass needles. Like, glass needles are an afterthought for them because there's so many exotics that exist currently that they have to get through world drops, you know. And hell, Bungie, you could make it so that until you have every single exotic armor piece on any given character, you can't get glass needles, you know. So for example, you know, this season on Titan, we got the I forget the name of the stasis helmet. We got the stasis helmet and the strand exotic boots. I don't have the stasis helmet yet. I have not been paying attention to Lost Sectors. I haven't had a real desire to use it because I like Hoarfrost more, but neither here nor there. But I haven't used it. So if glass needles exist in the game, I would not be able to get any glass needles until I went out and grinded and got that the Lance cap, I think is what it's called. You know, on my hunter, I don't have a bunch of exotics. I don't have Blight Ranger on my hunter because Blight Ranger sucks. I don't, and I don't need to use it to know that it sucks. You know, I don't have the Radiant Dance machines. I've never had a desire to go and get them. So until I get them, I can't get glass needles on my hunter. And hell, make them specific. You know, make it, you know, we used to have, or for the synth cord, for example, we have plush synth cord, we have rigid, and we have, I forget the hunter one, like smooth synth cord, something like that. And they're class specific. Have class specific glass needles, you know, rigid glass needles, plush glass needles, whatever it is. That way on my Titan, I can, you know, oh, okay, I can get, you know, I have 5 rigid glass needles here. Now I can re-roll my armor, but I can't just switch over to my hunter. Now I got 5 of them and use it on my hunter. Like, no, like, make it so you have to get all the exotics. Like I'm trying to think of ways here that Bungie could set it up so that, you know, we don't have to grind as hard, but it still is reward, you know, it still isn't just free, so to speak, you know. Yeah. At this point, I'm gonna just rant about it. I think that, you know, Bungie should add glass needles back in the game as a potential drop in place of exotic weapons once you have all the exotics in the game. But let me know what y'all think about this idea. If you remember glass needles, if you didn't, I mean, I guess this is a brand new idea for you, but let me know what you think in the comments below. I like reading y'all's comments because I like y'all's ideas. And hopefully if you are, you know, a more veteran player, tell me why you think Bungie doesn't have them in the game. Tell me why you think they should be in the game. Or if you disagree, of course, why do you disagree? Because I would love to see why people might disagree with that. Because this is something that would be, you know, beneficial to everybody. Okay, like there's no way you can not benefit from having glass needles in the game. So if you disagree for some reason, tell me why you disagree. Other than that, like this video if you enjoyed it. It does help the channel out a lot. And of course, subscribe for more daily Destiny discussions like this. We talk about this stuff all the time. And that's it for me. I will catch y'all in the next one. Bye for now, guys.